Laura, you're around the team every day. How are they handling this tough stretch?
I sure am around the team every day. I mean, honestly, they're handling it fairly well considering what they're going through. I mean, they've lost 9 out of the last 10. And I think the biggest takeaway that I got was from their victory when they hit those 7 solo home runs. Because after that, Brandon Nimmo was like, tomorrow you turn the page. Tomorrow you forget about it because those 7 runs don't matter. And what he was saying was essentially a lot of what they were saying last year during that infamous team meeting, which is basically like, who cares? Just play loose. One game at a time. And I know it's a cliche. I know that's what everyone says. But the thing is that you have to stay steady. So it's 162 games. Obviously, this is a blip. It doesn't feel like a blip right now, specifically because of the injuries to their pitching staff. And you're wondering whether or not their success will be sustainable. But because they're able to stay steady, because they have this veteran leadership in the clubhouse, I do feel like that's kind of spreading around to some of the younger guys. And they're not panicking. They say this over and over again. They have a very business-like demeanor inside the clubhouse. And I do think it helps when you're going through these tough stretches.
Yeah, blips do happen. I guess for me, the only thing that makes it worse is that it's happening to the Braves again, which I can't stand. But obviously, it's been a rough patch here. Hannah, what's the biggest issue that the Mets are facing right now?
Okay, I'm going to attempt a difficult task here, which is to sound smart while talking about runners and scoring position splits, because all the smart people in baseball will tell you that this is inherently fluky. It's not predictive. It doesn't mean anything. But even if it is fluky, and even if it's not predictive, it does mean something. If you're not getting hits with runners in scoring position, you're not going to drive in runs. You're not going to win games. And I thought this was really notable. So we've talked about before about how the Mets are not great. They're .218 batting average with runners in scoring position, second worst in baseball. But I thought this was notable. Their .256 batting average with the bases empty is the best in baseball. So, like, a lot of teams who are bad with runners in scoring position, it's just because they're bad at hitting. Like the Chicago White Sox are down there, even the Rangers are down there. But the Mets are great when the bases are empty. That difference between bases empty and runners in scoring position, largest in MLB. And if you look at that drop to the second largest, it's almost half as big. So this is significant. Whether or not it's predictive, it is significant. And I was trying to come up with why this could possibly be the case. Like, what is there some reason beyond it other than just flukiness and bad luck? And I was thinking that maybe it has something to do with the drop-off between the top of the lineup and the bottom of the lineup. Top of the lineup, 1 through 4, OPS 850. Bottom of the lineup, 5 through 9, OPS 647. So there are guys to get on base, but maybe those guys are not the guys at the bottom of the lineup who are available to sort of drive them in. That difference, that 203 OPS difference between 1 through 4 and 5 through 9, that's also the biggest in Major League Baseball, and it's also a pretty big drop-off to the next biggest drop-off from the top of the lineup to the bottom of the lineup. So I think their biggest problem is just that they have guys to get on base and they don't have people to drive them in. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Pete Alonso slowing down, but if he's not hitting home runs, who's driving in Soto, Lindor, Alonso when they're getting on base?
Yeah, I agree that the lineup is a problem, though. I think it's the bullpen, guys. They're going to have to get better pitchers in general, in my mind. Now, the lineup, they have some stars. You know, they're going to ebb and flow a little bit. But what they're doing over this stretch, they've allowed 58% of inherited runners to score. That is the second worst in MLB over this stretch. They're pitching more than 4.5 innings average over this stretch. They've doubled their ERA over the stretch. I mean, it's not good. And part of it is that the rotation hasn't been able to go deep in games, that they've been crushed by injuries. But they're going to get out and they're going to look for relievers, because I think David Stearns knows and the rest of the industry knows that they need better pitchers. It's not a matter of let's stick with our guys. They're going to get back on track like it is with the lineup. The bullpen, to me, is a very big concern.
Yeah, and remember, too, this team, while they haven't gotten great bullpen lately, they're starting pitching up and down, and then obviously the offense. They were built to hit. They were built to score runs. We were comparing this team on paper to the 2006 Mets lineup, which was loaded. They have not delivered offensively. Been a little bit of everything over the stretch. One thing that I like here, Laura, is the honesty of Carlos Mendoza. What have you thought about his comments during this rough stretch?
I mean, he's been, frankly, brutally honest with these guys. He says when people are underperforming. He says when he wants to see more. He says when guys are chasing. For even a guy like Francisco Lindor, who obviously is a fantastic player, he'll be like, well, you know, he's going through the slump because he's getting behind in counts and then he's chasing. And I think it's great. And when you talk about Carlos Mendoza specifically, he was hired because he was a player development guy. He knows how to speak to players. He knows how to get to young players. And these are professional athletes. They're men. You don't want to talk down to them. You don't want to say, hey, you're going to get them next time. You want actionable things that you can get better at. And so when Carlos Mendoza is holding them accountable, he's also holding himself accountable. And add to all this kind of like amalgamation is the fact that he also knows how to coach in New York, and that means knowing how to relate to the media. And New York media, I think, as everyone here knows, they're not going to pull any punches. So if you start getting a little bit cutesy with your explanations, if you start giving excuses for why guys are struggling, that's not going to fly. I think this is the tack that he needs to take.
Yeah, Mendy handled adversity right out of the gate a year ago. Hasn't had any since until this stretch. You got to find a way out of this one.